Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is John and this is your Modern Tech Breakdown. Today I have a really interesting internal document that reveals a little bit about OpenAI's business strategy. Let's jump into it. All right, so an internal OpenAI document was made public in Google's ongoing antitrust case, and I found a few tidbits that are worth discussing. And ultimately, I think OpenAI may be making an enormous mistake that could sink the company. So first off, I noticed this headline that reads a little bit awkwardly. It says, "Where to play." Obviously, I can't be certain, but I'm almost 100% sure that this is an allusion to the strategy cascade framework that was made popular by Alan Lafley and Roger Martin. This is a great way to simplify very complex problems, and it's a quick and high-quality read if you're thinking about business or product strategy. Next, while the document is obviously heavily redacted, there is a lot of discussion about how OpenAI wants to build a virtual assistant that deeply understands you and is your interface to the internet, which sounds a bit like what everyone wishes Siri would be. I would imagine that the demo that Apple put out last year at WWDC is probably pretty close to what OpenAI would like to build based on reading this document. And the last part of the document that caught my eye was right here. You can see that they have redacted who OpenAI believes is their biggest competitor. And based on nothing more than my eyeballs, I think that is a 4 or 5 letter word right there. I think it's probably Meta or Apple, but considering that they are talking about a personal assistant that wouldn't cannibalize their business, I think that word is probably Apple. So it seemed to me that OpenAI is squarely focused on beating Apple to the punch with a virtual assistant, and I think this is a potentially enormous mistake. I will say it could pay off enormously if they can win in this fight, but it's going to be very, very difficult, and here's why. First, OpenAI will never be more knowledgeable about the inner workings of iOS than Apple. Apple built iOS, understands it deeply, and will be able to build a better experience more quickly and cheaply than OpenAI can. Second, most Apple users will prefer to try an Apple-made option first. It'll be difficult for OpenAI, or anyone else for that matter, to overcome that built-in user bias. Third, OpenAI is going to struggle to get access to user data for training the way Apple can. Any AI that is reading the screen of a device, taking commands and acting on them, is going to need some training data. Apple clearly will have a much easier time getting that training data than OpenAI would. Fourth, this strategy opens up a direct, open fight with both Apple and Google at the same time, and potentially also Microsoft if they want to operate on Windows. That's a 2 or 3 front war at the same time. When OpenAI has never turned a profit, they're going to need an enormous war chest to survive this fight. Fifth, OpenAI will need to monetize this service in order to be successful. Apple can give away a competing product almost indefinitely in order to protect its iPhone business. It's hard to compete with a free offering. It's not impossible, but it is very difficult. So given these reasons, I think OpenAI may be going down a very difficult path here, and I think they know it. This is why they're working on building their own device with Johnny Ive in order to get around these obstacles. In fact, OpenAI is already marketing the product. In almost every press clip about OpenAI purchasing Johnny Ive's company, it was mentioned that they want to get people away from screens. They're already pre-positioning the sales pitch for whatever this device is going to become. But assuming OpenAI stays with this strategy, I think we can forecast a little bit into the future here. I expect that as soon as iOS or Android has deeply embedded AI capabilities where an assistant like Siri can read the screen, take commands, and perform actions on your behalf, OpenAI is going to push like mad to have access to those same APIs. In fact, I would fully expect OpenAI to leverage as much help as they can acquire from the government in order to get that API access. I would expect lawsuits and lobbying for antitrust cases, and we've been down this road before with Windows in the 1990s and early 2000s. So there's already very relevant case law on this topic that I'm sure is going to come into play. But I fully expect OpenAI to talk a ton about AI choice and freedom to pick your own virtual assistant, because out of the gate, obviously, Apple and Google are going to do everything they can to block OpenAI. But this is a fascinating unveiling of some internal OpenAI thinking. What do you think about it? Leave a comment down below. I read all of them. As always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.